Eskom has been run like a Ponzi scheme by the government mafia for more than a decade now. You see, money comes in from revenues, investments and loans, and it goes out the back door before any job is even done. See, these people are not only stealing the public's money, but they're also stealing their investors' money as well. Honestly, they should be charged at the International Criminal Court for this. You know, if a proper forensic audit was to be done, all of these top heads of government are going to jail, and they know that too. That's why there will never be a financial audit at Eskom or a proper forensic audit at Eskom. You see, the government, they won't allow it and they won't even cooperate with it.
One, the president has not given Eskom to me. Okay, I can tell you now, Eskom has not been given to me by the president. Okay.
I don't think that they know what they're doing.
The civil rights organization AfriForum has taken legal action against Eskom to obtain information regarding their controversial contracts. They served an application to Eskom in terms of the Promotion of Access to Information Act. Now, in the application, AfriForum demanded information on active contracts that Eskom had with various service providers, including coal suppliers and transport companies. Honestly, they are not the only ones trying to take Eskom to court. I mean, everybody and their mama is working on the same thing. You can feel the temperature in the streets. People are 5 minutes to losing their I'm telling you.
You know, we've now had stories for over 2.5 years from Eskom, blaming this power station, blaming that power station, blaming this. But if you go back and you sit back a little bit and you look at what they've been saying for the last nearly 3 years, it's the same old story, same old, same old. And any competent management team would say, hey guys, why are we repeating the same mistakes? Why are we having the same incidents time and time again? I can guarantee you there are power stations very, very similar, if not identical to South Africa's coal fleet, that are operating perfectly all over the world. In fact, in Europe, they are busy opening up old power stations that are much older than Eskom's power stations, and they will also be operating perfectly. So the problem to me seems to be management and political interference.
I don't think that they know what they're doing.
You see, Eskom's debt is more than the country's debt, meaning if this company doesn't bounce back, it's going to collapse the whole country's economy. Now, without power, the economy can't move, we can't produce and process food, we can't do electronic money transfers or keep the hospitals running, amongst a few things. You see, all our presidents have been useless when it comes to this. I mean, they've been helping themselves too, just like all the government officials have been doing for the last 15 years. They are all going shopping with the Eskom credit card, and they have no shame about it.
When Eskom goes down, for all practical purposes, Alec, the economy goes down in South Africa. And I want people to understand, this is not something that's going to be solved by renewable energy. Why? Renewable energy is good for intermittent power for little pockets. South Africa has a immediate 30,000 megawatt baseload generation problem. Okay, it's really 35,000 with enough reserve margin. That is not going to be replaced by wind and solar. Number two, wind and solar in South Africa is compromised because it's above market PPAs guaranteed by the South African government, and it's wrought with fraud. It's wrought with fraud. All of the contracts have kickbacks, embezzlements. The machine is getting their kickbacks. So the South African taxpayers are being ripped off again, not only by having load shedding, but all these new renewable contracts, which are not going to be productive to South Africa on a whole, are basically, it's a corrupt cabal. So when you look at the big picture, the losers here are the South African citizens.
You know, we've been in this abusive relationship with Eskom for almost 15 years now as a country. It's like that toxic girlfriend that you know she's not good for you, but you keep giving her money, hoping she'll love you back. Now, the good people at Eskom said stage 6 is necessary due to high number of breakdowns as well as the requirements to strictly preserve the remaining emergency generation reserves. To explain this in simple terms, they said, us. Now, operational plans have been made for load shedding up to stage 8 as a contingency measure should that become necessary to prevent a national blackout when demand exceeds supply, taking down the grid entirely. Basically, they're saying us, respectfully that is. Now, experts are saying there is a 50% likelihood that South Africa will hit stage 8 load shedding in some form or another from July as we move into the winter peak.
And it's broken because it's been subjected to years and years and years of neglect, corruption, fraud. That's a general statement that comes out of it. So when you do the math and you say, why do we need 1.1 trillion rand? Because you've ignored your system for 20 years and you've stolen everything that wasn't nailed down. The system is the worst system I've seen in the world. It's just been, I mean, you can't make this up. I get up in the morning sometimes when I'm working on this and I think I'm living a dream, because nobody would have done this to any operating system around the world. You would think, because even the crooks need power. Even the criminal syndicates need power. They're even coming now and saying, through the grapevine, God, we got to fix this. You can't embezzle from companies unless you have electricity. The whole system is absolutely broken.
I don't think that they know what they're doing.
Now, as we all know, the geniuses at the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, agreed to an 18.65% increase in electricity tariffs effective from the 1st of April this year. It's going to be a cold, dark winter, and we're all going to pay for it.
It's been battling a diesel shortage, which energy expert Chris Yellen predicts will run out in the next 2 weeks or so. Writing in a newsletter for EE Business Intelligence, Yellen shockingly says there is no plan to get South Africa out of darkness. The issue now is that because Eskom is relying on the open cycle gas turbines, which chow a lot of diesel, they need more money sooner rather than later, and whatever they have currently will cover them just for a short-term period.
Now check this. Eskom motivated for a large tariff hike because of the rising diesel costs. You see, they've spent 15 billion on diesel last year. Now some 9 billion more than what NERSA would allow them to recover through electricity tariffs for that year. Now the diesel cost that they are talking about, this is what's happening. A 40-year-old Eskom plant operator was arrested for stealing diesel worth 500,000. He made a brief appearance in the Atlantis Magistrate Court. You see, he was released on a 50,000 rand bail, and his case was postponed to Feb for further investigation. Now, Transnet says sabotage and derailment of its locomotives costs the South African economy 1 billion a day, as it tries to clear a 5,500 ton of coal and assess the damage that was done. You see, this comes after a derailment along its main coal line. You see, a train carrying export coal from Mpumalanga to Richards Bay was derailed near Ulundi, which prompted the Freight Rail Company to investigate the matter.
This is what mining companies in South Africa have resorted to, trucking coal to ports in order to meet a surge in European demand since the war in Ukraine started. The switch to trucking bypasses the deteriorating rail infrastructure that companies said costs millions of dollars in revenue.
Now, as soon as the Ukraine war started in Feb, the EU countries, including Netherlands, Italy and Denmark, started ramping up on coal imports from South Africa. But the increase in European demand of coal created an environment where greedy politicians and business crooks colluded and worked together to get as much coal as they can to Europe, disregarding the country's needs. You see, the country or the politicians, they secured $8.5 billion from the EU to finance a shift away from coal, and their target is $27.6 billion. Guys, let's be honest. These are legal bribes, and we all know that. These guys are being bribed so that the country gives away their coal. So we are not allowed to use coal. We must use all the green energy that doesn't work or is not sufficient for the whole country, and we give our coal to them.
I don't think that they know what they're doing.